Welcome into Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Drell Hendricks. We've got a great interview today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the Wren Hurricanes, Anthony Frate. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on tonight.
We appreciate your time. We really do. If this is you guys' first time checking us out, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains, and our website, movinchains.com. That's movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Coach Frate was hired in February. He's been the head coach at Hillcrest for the past 4 seasons, going 26-12. Prior to that, he was the DC at Wren and also spent time at Emerald, Lawrence, Mount Union, North Carolina Wesleyan, Emory and Henry, and Patton High School. How's it been getting over from Hillcrest over now to that Wren program?
It's really been great. First and foremost, I'd like, to thank the opportunity that Dr. Whitfield and Mr. Binnicker gave me. And then, to be honest with you, the support that, Coach Tate gave me as I came over there. He was still the acting athletic director when I got there. And he was in the office next to me. And, he did a great job and helping me transition into that position. And he's a stand-up guy, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today and wouldn't have got the Hillcrest job without him. He gave me a great opportunity about 6-7 years ago, and I appreciate him a lot. So the transition has been smooth, a lot of familiar faces, and it's been nice to be back.
Coach Frate, you detailed it for us a little bit off air, but for our listeners and viewers, talk about your coaching career a little bit. How'd you get started? Stops along the way to end up here at Wren.
Yeah, so I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland, Menor High School, the public school, big public school, is the biggest school in the state. Actually, my head coach took over my sophomore year. He just got inducted in the Ohio High School Hall of Fame last weekend, Coach Trevisano. So came from good stock there, went on to play at Mount Union College for 5 years, took a red shirt, played 5 years, coach every year, got a GA over at North Carolina Wesleyan with Jack Ginn and, some really good coaches over there. Because of a Mount Union connection, there was a intern that was coaching over at Wesleyan that is now coaching in Georgia that kind of brought me in. And from there, I went to Emory and Henry College. Oddly enough, the guys I was with at North Carolina Wesleyan were all Emory and Henry grads. And the defensive coordinator I played for at Mount Union College took the Emory and Henry head coaching job. So I ended up over there, spent 3 years there. And after that, I was making the big bucks. I was, coordinating. I was running the weight room. I think I was working in student affairs and teaching 2 classes. And I think, I was making all that money, like 16.5 or something crazy, just really living large. So I decided to make the big money, get into public education. Went down to North Carolina and got my first quote unquote big boy job, right? And worked for J.K. Atkins for a year at Patton High School before he moved on, and then Chris Deal came in, and that's who I was with my second year. So that was kind of the path that I took before Coach Deal and I went and joined Coach Mack. Coach Mac Mahan was the head coach at Emerald. I think he's got the most wins in Emerald history, and I know he's got the most wins in Freedom High School history. That's also Morganton. So he's a jam-up football coach, and that's kind of how I made it down to South Carolina. I've been there a few years, coordinated my last 2 years at Emerald, and then latched on with Coach Liner. I was with Coach Liner for 3 years, won a region championship in 2016, and there were some goofy things going on in the district. So I just shot an email to Coach Tate and a resume and said, hey, you got a science opening. And 3 days later, we're sitting at, I think it was like Carolina Ale House, and we're sitting down talking, having a meal, and I went and interviewed, and the rest is history. So, during that time, I was building a house in Greenville because I was tired of bouncing around. Obviously, I've been all over the place. So, man, I want to like where I live. So I built a house in Greenville and worked at Wren and got the Hillcrest opportunity. And so here I am now. That's kind of been the quick version of what happened.
Coach, we mentioned you were able to get hired in February, which is, pretty early in the process, really. With that, have you been able to go ahead and get a staff finalized? You have a couple pieces you're still kind of waiting on getting straightened out there.
Yeah, man. There's been some divine intervention, I think, on this one because our staff, I believe, jam up, on On the defensive side of the ball, which has kind of been my thing for the last, 15 years, as long as I've been coaching, I'm a defensive guy. And I'm still going to call the defense, but I was able to bring on Jordan Miller, who's a defensive line coach at TL Hanna. And he's phenomenal, does a great job. He'll run our JV program as well. Our linebacker coach is Curtis Cotton. Curtis Cotton was with us at Hillcrest. He was our offensive line coach at Hillcrest, but he'll coach linebackers for us. And he spent 30-odd years coaching big-time high school football in West Texas. So the Odessa Permians and the Midlands, Midland Lee. He coached at Amarillo High and went to Amarillo High. So that's it. That's the cloth he's cut from. So he's going to be coaching linebackers for us. In the secondary, we got Wendell Rhodes. Wendell Rhodes was the Shrine Bowl running back in the 80s. And then his son, Sid Rhodes, is a South Carolina graduate, is also going to be in the secondary. So we'll have all of us working together there, and I'll be coordinating, kind of floating around, so I can also get away and give offense a little bit of love. I was able to bring Coach Perdomo over from Hillcrest, and he's a Wren graduate. So, he's getting to come home and call plays and kind of organize that thing his first time. He's done a great job. So we'll be working with the backs. We were able to get Trey Atkins, a Hillcrest grad that played at USC and then went to Mercer. He's coaching receivers. Philip Price is going to be working with our offensive line. He's a Clemson grad, big-time ball player, has done a great job. And then Zach Pritchett, who's also a Wren grad, wrestled and coached O-line there for years. He'll be working with running backs and JV O-line. So, when you look at our staff, you've got, looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Wren grads, and then some elite experiences there. And I'm really excited at the dynamics of our staff.
So, Coach, going into it without too much detail, because we've been accused of giving away some schematic stuff. What are you going to be running on defense and offense? What's Coach Perdomo going to do there, and what are you going to be doing with your base defense?
Well, defensively, put on the Hillcrest tape. I believe personally right now that most high schools lack the ability to produce 4 true defensive linemen. If I'm being honest with you, as good as we were on defense last year at Hillcrest, we play with 1 defensive lineman, 5 linebackers, and 5 DBs, and we just slashed and got after you. And we've been doing that for the last 3 years over there, or 4 years. And my last year at Wren, we did the same thing. And we did it for a year or 2 at Lawrence too. So we're going to do the same thing, this year. We don't have a ton of big bodies, but we're going to get after you defensively. Now, offensively, we're inputting this new thing that Wren hasn't seen in about 15 years. It's called the tight end. All right. So I know Eli, that's up at App State, is a really good tight end in theory, but he was just a big old wide receiver that was physical. And talk about Eli Wilson. I think he's a rising junior now, but in terms of eligibility. But so we've got a couple big bodies that can run and catch and all that stuff. And, so we'll be multiple, but we will be having a tight end this year, which is we're excited about because we got some bodies that do that.
So, Coach, you mentioned earlier you've been all across not only the state but other states, and really the whole country on kind of on the East Coast there. Who are some coaches that have really been big influences on you? And then are there any guys that you like, watching maybe today in the pro or college game, kind of pick up some tricks from here and there?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Coach Karras that I played for obviously is the biggest one. And that was the land of not reality. It was so, Mount Union College at that time was so not reality. I was part of the 55-game win streak. We played in 2 close games, and the coaching room that I started out in was Matt Campbell, who's at Iowa State, Jason Candle, who's at Toledo, Vince Karras, who's Toledo's DC, Nick Sirianni, who's the Philadelphia Eagles head coach. Those are all my buddies, Zach Bruni, who's at Wheeling Jesuit. We're all in the same, deal. Tom Manning, who was the OC at Iowa State, and I was at Cincinnati. Joe, and I'm not trying to name drop or anything like that, but those were the guys that, I was lucky enough to be around, and I got to a point where, like, I think for a lot of us that were in that deal, and I could talk about really successful high school guys too, but like you either went and got your G8 Bowling Green, Toledo, Northern Illinois, or you went and became a high school coach. And that was kind of where went. And I decided to go to the high school route. And there's been a lot of great coaches. My defense coordinator, Don Montgomery, he was a father figure for me. So there's been a lot of great ones. Chris Deal, who, unfortunately passed away, ALS, his son starts at Auburn. Those guys have been amazing for me. Coach Liner, I talk to him all the time. He had a profound impact on me. Even Coach Tate, and I've been lucky to be around. Everybody I've been around has been winners. And it's been nice to be able to pick certain things. Even Coach Tone over at Hannah, I got a great relationship with him. Coach Cab up in Chapman, we talk all the time. So there's a lot of great relationships I've been able to form, and certainly some guys in the upstate that are phenomenal that I really like.
Coach, those are some impressive names. How important is it, networking and continuing those relationships for you to develop your career and then, pass that on to the next generation of coaches and your players?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because, like, I haven't been really involved in the Coaches Association, and Lee Taylor and some of those guys, Coach Farmer, have done a great job as of late promoting that more and more. And a couple of years ago, that clinic in February was kind of a dud. And this past year, man, they did such a good job, and there was such a good turnout. And I kind of looked around. I'm like, man, there's not enough of us that are like my age that are doing enough. And that's something I think is really important in order for us to keep this thing rolling. Coach Tone took the 11-on-11 bull by the horns, and he got that squared away for us because, quite frankly, for teams like his, if you can't do an 11-on-11, summer, like, what are you doing all summer?
Sure.
So, like, we've got some great leadership, around that 40 to 50 or mid 30s to mid 40s range. Coach Hodge has done so much to lead us as an organization, but there's going to come a point in time where those older guys phase out, and we've got to be ready to step up. So I've been trying to get more involved, and Coach Cab is always involved over at Chapman. So I've been kind of following their lead as of late to get more involved. But it is important. You've got to know who these guys are. You got to have relationships. You got to be open-minded. You got to be willing to have tough conversations. Just talk about like, am I trying to win a championship, or am I trying to do the kids right? Am I trying, will the championships come? Hopefully they do, but also what's the best situation for the kids? And I think at the end of the day, we got a great group of leaders. Paige Wofford is one, for example, that is always looking to do right by the kids. And as long as we keep that going, we're going to be in a good place in South Carolina.
Coach, you guys are already through spring ball, kind of getting into the 7-on-7 season now. Yeah. How does spring practice go for you guys, and how are you guys looking so far here in the summer?
Well, it's been obviously 5A football, you got a bajillion kids out there, you got 50 some odd C teamers. We would have 115 JV varsity kids. And then, your D teams out there with no helmets, there's 45 of them, 50 of them, sometimes 60 of them. You got to tell 20 to go. And that was that situation, right? And we had kids that would run track and that were good at track. We had the Grand Holidays and all that would run track. And it was great, but it didn't make up the real depth of your team, and you could function. Well, now in 3A football, it's a little different. We're talking about, like, most of our secondary is gone and receivers are gone because they're playing baseball or they're running track. And I want to be clear, that is a good thing. But spring ball was like spring ball light. It was like we didn't have, who we thought were going to be all of our guys. Tyler Morgan was running track. Binnicker was running track, our receiver. A young kid you're going to hear a lot about, Nick Owen, he's running track, triple jump. The Hickerson kid, Seth, he's a triple jumper running track. And then, you go over, we got our left tackles playing baseball, Cooper Sanders, right tackle, and then, Brandon Kirby's playing baseball. So it's a little bit different dynamic. You got to be a little bit more open-minded. You got to be a little bit more holistic. But Now we're really getting into it. So spring ball was a little bit, like I said, spring ball light. It was baby steps. It didn't look like it should have been. We went to USC on Tuesday. We dropped a close one to Ridgeview. We got beat by Huff. We got beat by Grimsley, which, by the way, Grimsley's unbelievable. They got 2 dudes out here and a receiver or quarterback. Wow, they're good. Lost to those 2. Lost to Ridgeview with no time left on the clock. Didn't make the playoff. Grimsley and Huff went to the finals, or to the semifinals. Ridgeview played to get in there. We just didn't make it. Saturday after that, on Saturday, we go down to Charleston Southern. Got down there, lost to Crest by 2. Didn't give up any more than 10 points the rest of the day. We beat Greenwood, Fort Dorchester, Goose Creek, Oceanside. We ran the table, won the whole thing. Nice. Our quarterback is a small guy. He can run, he can shifty. He's shifty, but he's starting to throw the ball really well. Parker Beller, tight end, had a great little 7-on-7 camp. So we've got some good pieces there that are coming along. We're really excited about how it's coming together.
If you don't mind, talk about some of those pieces you have now that you've got them all together. Who are some special players that we need to look out for next season?
Yeah, so our quarterback, Colton Bagwell, he's like, I certainly don't want to call him Johnny Manziel because he doesn't have all that baggage. He's like Mr. Do-Right, but he's just a short, athletic kid that he's extremely accurate and he can fly. And I think some people are going to have some problems with him in the run game. He's tough as nails. He's got great leadership skills. Our tight end, who's a rising senior, Parker Bell, is coming on the scene. Obviously, Philip Price, our O-line coach, went into Clemson as a tight end, and they got converted to tackle. So he's been able to coach him up phenomenally, and he's coming on strong. Our left tackle, Austin Beers, is probably our best and most seniored offensive lineman. He's phenomenal. We got a tough fight you over a bottle cap running back and Ethan Moody. I mean, this kid's old school. He was over there hanging out with the James Island kids for a little bit before we played him in the championship on Saturday. And one of the coaches said, "Man, that's a bad A white boy right there." I said, "He's tough as nails, man. He's got something too." He said, "Yeah, he's gritty, man. He's gritty. He's tough." I said, "Yeah, he is." And that's just who he is. He's tough, embodies that. Got another young running back in Reese Price, who's really, really good. He's thick, he's solid, he's strong, explosive. Get out wide. You're talking about Braden Binnicker is our top receiver returning. And, so we've got all that offensively, which is great. And then a young offensive line to match in with Austin, but they're all very talented and in good hands with Phillip and Zach. And then defensively, we got Cam Sanders up front. Cam is, about a 6'1", 245-pound kid that on the catapult down at the Palmetto Combine Series ran almost 21 miles an hour. And, he's fast, he's explosive.
Moving.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to hand him the ball at some point. And I don't know what point that is, but he will get the football. And we're going to see if anybody wants a piece of that. And he's just that kind of kid. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. He's a rising junior. Tyron Jackson is probably going to play a zero technique. He's a big, thick, strong kid that can really do a great job with his hands. At linebacker, we're going to be young in terms of experience, but we're still figuring that position out right now by committee. But we've seen some really good things on the defensive secondary out of Brandon Kirby at corner. In fact, the 7-on-7 on Saturday, we had they were trying to hurry up. They got a little 5-yard penalty, backed them up 5. It was 3rd and 8. They try to pick on them. Makes a big play to win the game. We get a defensive stop, 2 points. We end up winning by 2. So Brandon's doing a great job for us. Seth Hickerson will play both ways. He'll play a little bit of defense. Noah Ramey's coming on. He's a rising 11th grader. Nick Owens is doing a great job. And then you probably know about the name Morgan. Tyler Morgan is a stud. He's going to have a good junior year. His brothers both play at Wofford. So
Yeah.
we've got pieces. We're just you look around, it's like 10th grader, 11th grader, 10th grader, 11th grade, 10th grader, and it's like, all right, well, shoot, they played last year, so they can play this year if they played last year. So it's gonna be exciting.
We mentioned it a couple times that you were hired earlier in the process in February. How helpful was that to be able to get onto campus at Wren right away and get to kind of start knowing these kids and get in the weight room, things like that for you?
It's huge. I think more so than ever, young men, young people in general, lack real relationships. They lack real, physical, concrete, in-person relationships. High-fiving each other, grabbing them on the shoulder and giving them a squeeze and great job, man. Patting them on the back, giving them a hug. You know what I mean? Great job. And being in the building, be able to do some of those things was, it was priceless for me to be able to do that in terms of our team unity. And you got to ease your way into those things, but also the opportunity is there to present itself. All of a sudden, 1 week you don't have anybody in your office. Nobody's in your office. And one kid comes in your office. And then next week, 2-3 kids in your office. Before you know it, they're hanging out in your office. And you got to kick them out. And it's like, guys, you got to get a little work done. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been the process and building those relationships and, having an open line of communication, then supporting them too. Like I think the community has really done a great job stepping up with fundraising. So like we had the opportunity, I told them I told the community what I wanted to do. And we were able to hop on the charter bus, go down to South Carolina, stay overnight, eat at the Golden Corral, which everybody loves. And we went down to Isle of Palms for a day, did a workout on the beach. They hung out on the beach. They got to ride waves. They got to play volleyball, took it back to Golden Corral. Spent the night, woke up the next day and went to Charleston Southern, watched Friday Night Lights as a team in the team room. The Charleston Southern, got to see a tour of South Carolina's, all those experiences are what I kind of promoted to the community and they stepped up. And I think those things are helping to bond us together, and having the time in the spring to do those things and have some face time has been huge. When we had our spring showcase, we did a ride. Everybody that was a middle school player, we had a official visit. So we gave them a lanyard and a card, and they had their official visit for the spring game. And then the next night, we had all our rising freshmen sign to commit their letter of intent for Wren High School. And then we did a photo shoot with their parents signing their letter of intent. And then on their official visit, we had all the gear, and we did videos for them. And they had the ball, and and it was all blue screened out. And I would have never been able to do those things with my staff and the kids had I not had the opportunity to get over early. I think it's helped a ton.
So you mentioned that Wren community, you guys are very, focused on athletics. Just won the basketball state championship, knocked off my TR Devil Dogs in Upper State, but we won't talk about that. But how does that kind of put the pressure on you as far as football is concerned, that they set that bar, that you want to try to reach that there while you're the coach?
I think the biggest pressure that a lot of times I feel, I put it on myself. I feel like if we're always doing right by the kids, doing right by the young men, then, the rest will take care of itself. Obviously, after I left in 2018 and 2019, they won the state title. And then they were a volleyball runner up. They've won 2 track state championships. They've won a volleyball state championship, a girls basketball runner up, a boys state championship. They've gotten a lot. They've gotten a lot done, and kudos to Coach Tate and the athletic staff there. He is the athletic director, get that done. But I don't necessarily feel pressure to do those things, because I feel like we're giving the kids first and foremost a good experience. Going through high school football, which I think is first and foremost the most important thing.
So you guys have a really tough non-region slate with games against teams like Jefferson out of Georgia, TL Hanna, Burns, Hillcrest, of course. Is that something that, did you have a hand in that? Was it already kind of planned? And then, if it was your doing, is that kind of a strategy to play some of those bigger boys, get you guys ready for the region schedule?
So the way that it goes is every 2 years there's a realignment. Unfortunately, for some reason, the realignment in Georgia and North Carolina are opposite years as South Carolina, so it never really matches up. But we set our schedules in 2-year stints, so this schedule is already set. We're not going to make any excuses when we go line up against Jefferson or TL Hanna or whoever. We're going to play. We're going to play. But I think that from what I've seen, from what I've gotten there to right now, and what I saw last year in terms of when they came and played us at Hillcrest, this is a different group. They're grown up. They got beat around a bunch last year, and they're not really happy with that. So there's going to be a lot more fighting them, I think. They got muscles. They're feeling themselves. They're taking the shirts off, all those things. And I feel really confident about our chances.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
Perfect, Coach. We'll switch gears and head over to some easier ones. And this is a question I always have to ask. You've been there in that Piedmont Rent area now for a little bit. I need a good restaurant if I'm there to go eat at, or a few of them while we go catch a Hurricanes game.
So Reuben's over by Ingalls on 153, that corner 153 and 86, I think that is. Reuben's is the place to be, from what I understand now. I personally have not been over there, but that place is pretty darn good from what I hear.
Perfect.
That's one that I know is a slam dunk.
Perfect. So you've coached, like I mentioned, everywhere, college level, high school level, whatever. How did you know that high school was more of a better fit for you than kind of that collegiate level?
Yeah. So it was one of those things where, I think we all value money, right? We all value money.
Yeah.
But I was looking at what that life looks like versus, the amount of money I was going to get and my happiness level. And when you're talking about literally working on, mid-July and not having a day off until, Christmas. And then when you get back in January, because you're having weekend visits, you don't get a day off until June. It was tough. I'm not going to lie. You're working 100, 115-hour weeks, sleeping at the office and all that stuff. And I just never really felt good about just my overall, what I wanted to do with my life, just my overall spectrum and vision of what I wanted my life to be. And I think it's been a great decision for me. I don't regret it for 1 minute. It's funny. I talked to Tommy, and we shared a bedroom that was like the size of what I'm sitting in right now, and then 5 years later, he's making $600,000 a year. And, he goes over to Iowa State, and it's like, yeah, it's sweet. But for, 6 years, his wife was having babies, and he didn't get to be there and see him. So, in anything you do, there's things that you have to decide whether or not you're willing to give them up. And for that level, I just wasn't willing to give them up. And Saturday's a fun day for me now. I get a day off. And then, on Sunday, I got to get back to work.
So let's talk about Saturdays. You played for the historic, D3 powerhouse in Mountain Union, All-American linebacker, won national championships. I think you guys have 13 claimed national championships. What was that experience like, playing for that program in those years there?
Man, from a coaching standpoint, I'll say this, from coaching standpoint, and particularly earlier in my career, it was like the best thing that ever happened and the worst thing that ever happened, because it's not reality. It's unattainable. If you look at, all of the great dynasties, They won 54 in a row, lost in double overtime at home. Then I came in as a freshman. We won 55 in a row, and we lost one. So, like, they were like 100. They won 109 out of 111 games, right? And that's not reality at most places. I think there's a lot of reasons why it was the way that it was, and why that happened. But that was probably one of the best things and the worst things that could ever happen, if that makes sense. Then you got to put things, when you get a little older, you get a little wise, you start putting things in perspective. Like you don't have a bunch of All-American after All-American doing everything right, to where we never even watched like bad film. We didn't like watch people do things wrong. You know what I mean? So like you never even learned how to do it wrong because nobody was ever screwing up. So that was kind of what that experience was like. I can tell you that it was a close-knit family environment. To a certain extent, it was a little bit cutthroat and intense. You know what I mean? Like, you messed up, you're see ya, you need to be forgotten. It was like, hey, dude, what happened to that dude? Like, he was good. I remember my sophomore year, we had a really good linebacker come in. I think the kid's name was Tucker Allen. Tucker something. Dude had 23 tackles in the state championship game, went to Upper Arlington. Stud linebacker. Goes through our camp 2 weeks. He's like, I'm not even getting any burn. I'm getting nothing, right? Because we got our guys already out there. Like week 2 at Ohio State, he's running down on kickoff. Transfers there, walks on. He's running down on kickoff. Like this just from a numbers standpoint, the competition is so stiff. And my man goes over to Ohio State and like 2-3 weeks later, he's running down on kickoff. It's like, holy cow, and that doesn't mean that our guys were as good as Ohio State. It just means there were 40 linebackers when I played. So you're right. So it was an experience. It was a neat experience. It's one that certainly I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't get an opportunity to have it.
Well, last one here for you, Coach. What are some goals for the 2023 season for the Wren Hurricanes?
Well, we once I took the job, I kind of started saying something, and it's been sticking with the boys. We talk about how everything affects everything, and you can't leave any stone left unturned. And I don't know if y'all have read that book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, but it comes from that. And everything affects everything. We've got to understand, the difference between winning and losing is so minute, and we all need to work together towards this thing. And I think some realistic expectations for next year is you're going to see a bigger, stronger, faster team. You're going to see a team that, at least in my heart, I believe that we can compete for a region championship next year. And, it's no one's fault but the state of South Carolina. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the region games. And I'm not saying that, I don't like our odds in those non-region games. I'm just saying, with a school like us and where we're at, I feel like if we come out of that non-region healthy and we're feeling good, we could be a team to look out for. I'm really excited about some of those matchups. Just because I'm wearing blue and gold now doesn't mean I don't, all of a sudden I forgot about 14-13 down at TL Hanna last year. That's, that was going to stay with me for a while. Coach Tone knows that. You know what I mean? And I know being on the side of the Hillcrest sideline when we were at Wren, that we went down 14-0, then we went down 21-7, then we went down 28-14, and then we rattled off all those unanswered points to win 48-35. I know what the program can do. We've just got to keep working and grinding so that everybody's on the same page to get it done. So I'm excited about those challenges. And I'll be honest with Burns too. Burns last year, I mean, y'all might have even been at that game. I can't remember. Yep. I mean, holy cow, we come out and 24-0. Like, what are we doing? That one's going to stick with me a while. So there's some games there, and whether they go our way or not, for me, I know I'm going to be preparing to make sure that everybody else is prepared to really make sure that putting forth our best, I guess, our best product on the football field.
Well, this has been great. Definitely everyone to go follow Coach Frate, the Hurricanes program on Twitter and Facebook, etc. They do a great job posting highlight videos and things like that of their players. Definitely go check them out on there. Like I mentioned, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Movin Chains, our website, movingchains.com. Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Moving the Change brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Drill, anything else for Coach Frate before we let him go tonight?
Coach Frate, first and foremost, thank you very much for your time tonight. Congratulations on that new opportunity there at Wren. Looking forward to what you do there. Got a young team, so I'm sure you'll take some bumps and bruises, but I know you guys are going to be great over the coming years. The state of South Carolina is really privileged to have, great coaches like you. Big loss for Hillcrest, but a great gain for Wren, and I just wish you continued success.
I appreciate it, and appreciate you guys giving me the time to showcase our program. Means a lot to the community and the boys, and them being under the spotlight a little bit is something that they're really going to enjoy, and they deserve it. They work so hard, so they make me proud every day, and I appreciate your guys' time.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you. Look forward to getting down there this summer or to a game next year and getting to shake your hand again. And best of luck. All right, Coach?
That'd be great. Thanks so much.